Over the summer, I was lucky enough to have seen the Barbie movie. I got to wake up one morning and put on all my pink and go see a movie that left me a little emotionally distraught because of the impactful message it had. While this might not have been the only message of the movie, it was the one that I saw at first. The second message that I think was also the most impactful was how they showed how women's voices are often silenced in society. We see often that women feel like they have less power than those above them, for example, portrayed in this movie Barbie and Ken. Barbie, played by Margot Robbie, shows that women often feel like their voices are silenced by those around them, and that Ken, played by Ryan Gosling, shows that men feel like they have more power and don't necessarily feel like they have to give that same voice to women. We can connect this back to the question, should people convicted of a felony have the right to vote? I believe that we should give them the right to vote because we should not be silencing the voice of those in our own community. I want to answer yes to this question for 3 key reasons. Number 1, this increases the likelihood that significant changes can and will come to our prison systems. Number 2, this reduces crimes by us reintegrating our released felons into society. And number 3, we are reducing crime by decreasing the chance that felons' children end up following in their parents' footsteps. Now let's circle back to my first point. This increases the likelihood that significant changes can and will come to our prison systems. Our felons have a unique perspective that many individuals do not because they are the ones in the prison. According to the Sentencing Project, in 2022, across 48 states, over 4.6 million Americans cannot express their voices and opinions due to the prisons or the state of the prisons that they live in. We want to increase the state of living in these prisons. When it comes to these prisons, though, they should get the first say about policy regarding them. Problems that affect the quality of our prisons can directly affect recidivism and reintegration into our society. We shouldn't be burying the people who are affected directly from voting on the prisons that they live in. We should always be trying to increase the living state of these prisons. Now on to my second point. This reduces crimes in that we are reintegrating our released felons back into our society. Our status quo deems our felons as lesser than a non-felon, meaning that they are seen with less rights, they are seen as inhumane, but they are equally as human as you and I and everybody around us. Tara Simmons, a representative from Washington who was incarcerated with a felony charge, explains that when you are told you are not worthy of being a part of a collective decision-making body, it's like another layer of stigma that you walk through the world with, and that the internalized message that this community doesn't want me here and these people don't like me is what leads people to being isolated. In isolation, people are more likely to relapse with their substance use disorder and commit a new crime because they are not connected to those within society. We don't want felons going back to their old habits because that just increases the crime rate. We want them to feel like they can also be a part of society as the rest of us are. We answer yes to this question to reduce that feeling and fear of isolation as we integrate these people back into society the biggest way by giving them the right to vote. And 3, we reduce crime by decreasing the chance that felons' children end up following in their parents' footsteps. The National Institute of Corrections calculate that there are 2.7 million U.S. children who have a parent who is incarcerated or convicted of a felon. And they also state that they have a significantly harder transition into adulthood. These children end up being 24% more likely to be charged with a felony because those are the actions that they see their parents do. They are 20% more likely to drop out of high school due to the mental state of seeing their parents incarcerated. And that they are 20% more likely to experience poverty because they were never raised in the same way that you and I were today. These impacts are often worsened by the length of time served and the quality of the prisons in which parents serve time within. But by answering yes to this question, we're allowing a higher chance for change to occur. As stated in my first point, how we want these changes and how answering yes to this question increases the likelihood that these changes can and will come to our prison systems. We can also see that when these parents are integrated back into society, the lesser the impact the kids will experience by having a parent who is imprisoned, because they are able to be reintegrated back in society, and we can see how much positive that this has on on these children because we're seeing that their parents aren't experiencing the same kind of isolation as they would be if they weren't given certain rights that we are given without anything around us. It's because those who have not committed felons don't know how hard it is to go through this. So today I answered yes to the question, should people convicted of a felony be allowed to vote? I answered this question mainly to show that we should not be silencing those voices in America. My 3 reasons for why we should answer yes to this question are: number 1, it increases the likelihood that significant changes will come to our prison systems. Number 2, how answering yes to this question, we are reducing crime by reintegrating our released felons within our society. And number 3, we are also reducing crime by decreasing the chance of felons' children following along in their parents' footsteps. I answered yes to this question for these 3 reasons, but also because everybody deserves the right to vote. We live in a society where we make a lot of the decisions, and we should be allowed to make those decisions no matter the crimes that we committed. Because if we end up having something about prison legislation in our Congress, we can see that these felons who have been in those prisons can help push to make awareness to pass these things. So next time I watch the Barbie movie, I'm not going to just sit there crying over how emotional it makes me. I'm going to think more about the impact it has on how we see how many voices are often silenced within our society. Personally, I'm going to do a better job at showing others that we shouldn't be silencing these voices just because of the crimes that they committed. I answered yes to the question, should people convicted of a felony be allowed to vote? Thank you.